All right, we are back with another episode, and today, man, I'm so happy right now because one of my best friend, Anthony's looking at me right now, laughing. If you're on YouTube right now, you're seeing this go down. Anthony Watson, one of my best friends that I've met. Man, I mean, it's only been a couple months too, but we've hung out so much. Anthony Watson is an Olympian athlete. He's been canceled. He is the left's most wanted. I'm totally. And man, Anthony, I love you, bro. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
What it do, baby?
What it do, baby? This is literally our saying every time I call Anthony. I'm like, yo, what's up? He go, what it do, baby?
What it do, baby? Emphasis on the baby.
That is right, man. Well, Anthony, dude, we only met a couple months ago, but we have hung out a lot. We have stayed in touch. We talk, I don't know, 3-4 times a week.
Yeah, we talk a lot. I mean, I don't know. It's like CPAC still seems only like a couple of weeks because every single time you're like, bro, we met like over a month ago. I'm like, really? Still seems like it was like 2 weeks ago.
I think it was over 2 months ago now.
It's over 2 months now. It was February 25th. You sauntered into the house that I was staying at. Didn't know anybody. He was actually friends of a mutual friend of ours, and they didn't even meet in person either. Nowadays, you got so much online stuff it's going on that they had just followed each other and exchanged a couple likes, comments. You know how it is on Instagram. And then I was like, oh, what's your name? He's like, oh, Jordan. I was like, what you do? He's like, oh, I DJ. I do music. I was like, oh. And then after that, it's been babies ever since. It
has been. So real quick, before we get this going, if you are listening on the podcast right now, make sure you can. If you're at home, you're able to watch this on video. We're recording this on video as well. So YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, all you got to do is search Speak Truth Without Fear. It is up there. And to make sure you also go to speaktruthwithoutfear.com and put in your email because we are actually going to be releasing some really big announcements of taking this, the Instagram live show live. So with that being said, Anthony, so man, you have such an incredible story. I remember the first night we chatted, you told me your story and, we had so much in common being canceled. I've worked in the entertainment industry. You worked in the sports industry. And athletics. And so, one, I want people to know your story, how you got into sports, and then, give us your background, your story, and how you, came to the place of being a Turning Point ambassador and someone that is really fighting for conservative values.
Well, thank you so much for having me, my friend. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I know this is it's just like another avenue that we're just working together. Your IG lives, hanging out in person, you coming to my events. Pretty soon I'm going to be going to your sold out, debut main stage concert with all these conservatives at some point in the future. Who knows?
That's right.
But a little bit about myself was, I came from humble beginnings, to say it politely. Grew up not having much, but I had two loving parents that literally raised me to be grateful in every situation and circumstance. And so I got into athletics because that was really the only outlet that I had as a kid growing up, because I was severely bullied by a lot of people in school because we didn't have new clothes or, didn't really have the latest fashion, style, or anything. So I felt alone a lot of my life. And sports was kind of like my only outlet for release. And, ever since I was 6 years old, watching track and field, I wanted to be in the Olympics for track and field, and then kind of didn't make it through with an injury that happened when I was in college, trying to qualify for the London Games. But, as not luck, but as hard work would have it, I found out that after that little setback that the only sport in for Team USA Olympic trials was the only sport that took open tryouts was bobsledding and skeleton. So I figured, at that point in my life, I'm like, well, looks like it's going to be the avenue to get me to where I eventually want to go all these years. And so after deciding to do that, competed with Team USA for 3 years, didn't really like the politics and the system there. So I left on good terms, competed with the Jamaican team that was actually, that I have dual citizenship through my father. Competed for the Jamaicans and actually made Olympic history as the first ever Jamaican to compete in the sport of skeleton for the country of Jamaica in a Winter Games period. So, it was a really was a really big deal, but I got treated so harshly that sometimes it's kind of a temptation for me to undermine the magnitude of it. But at the same time, it's just like it's kind of hard to talk about it because you never want to talk about yourself because you don't want people to think you're arrogant. But
Right.
you know, it's a struggle.
Well,
A lot of people.
people need to hear the story, man. Like, so many people are going through what we go through. I mean, obviously sometimes it's on a bigger scale and sometimes it's not. But, the average person, especially that, they believe in the conservative values, but they're scared to speak out and scared to death of cancel culture. And I know that I've experienced that, and really 2 or 3 months ago, I just really came out in a very strong way. But let's talk about what that looked like for you, because I mean I remember you had we had some conversations about this, and you said it was some of the hardest times of your life, and you're actually just now coming out of that. So yeah, tell me what that was like, how you got canceled, and the whole, I mean, really the whole story.
Well, I'm still very much in it. So I mean, like the only thing that's changed is just my attitude and my perception
Mm,
has changed. So I
that's
mean, like
good.
I'm still very much canceled. The situation hasn't changed, and it's still hard. But going through it, I committed to it when I made a stand for what I believe in, and a lot of people tell you that like it's going to get hard, but the reality doesn't hit you until you're actually in it, and it's just
Mm,
like, what the heck did I sign up for?
yeah.
So I mean, through thick and thin, and through everything that's happened after being canceled, like I'm still here and in the same situation, but it's a different mindset that I have in here, which is actually making it more durable. So what happened to me was that as an Olympian, we're told that we're not to take political stances and we're not to, publicly like make politics a thing in the Olympics, which I give the Olympics credit. They've done a stand-up job of when it comes to competition. They've literally left politics outside of it. A
Right.
lot of people outside of the Olympics can do whatever they want, but in where I grew up, the states where I'm from, you have a lot of people here that are very afraid. You have a lot of my Caucasian, or as I like to call them, my French vanilla ivory friends, that are doing a lot of things to kind of play nice guy to the other side because they're more afraid of being perceived as racist, even though I know that they aren't. And that's more dangerous in my mind than actually being racist. Because as a racist, you already know where you stand and you're not afraid to, to stick by it. When you're afraid to being perceived as a racist, that's when you literally bend over backwards in every kind of direction until you're bent up into a position that you can't get out of in circumstances that you see there's no way for you to get help unless you literally just go against everything that you've been doing. And so what had happened with me was that I had, after the Olympics, ran into some tough times, but, was still having, still training, still doing everything that I wanted to do. And then I came across Turning Point. Always loved Turning Point, everything that they did, and I remember that was back when I was watching videos when Charlie Kirk used to go to campuses and just set up a table and sit
Yeah.
there. And all the chapters that he has now, I've sat there with students at some of the events that I've actually spoken at on behalf of Turning Point, sitting there tabling, looking at it full circle like, man, look at that. Charlie
That's
Kirk
awesome.
literally set up a table, would go sit on campuses and have conversations with people. And now he's got thousands and millions of students doing the
Yep.
same thing that he did. And so at the time, this was when everything was being turned into race wars, and I just wasn't biting it. And this was like right when the George Floyd case had happened, and when he had gotten killed, and when he had died. I rephrase that. When he had died, and so I was talking to Turning Point. I had applied to be an ambassador with them because I've grown up conservative. I grew up Christian. And a lot of
Right.
people fail to realize that conservatism was something that's only been in circulation since about a year and a half before Trump took office.
Mm,
And now it's become like a really big thing. But as a Christian, when you look at it, conservatism is birthed out of that because everything that Christianity stands for is all out of godly statutes and a foundation that now is what we call conservatism, the
yep.
preservation of life, the love for one's country and one's fellow man, that kind of thing, and the internal character that makes you the individual that makes a collective group of people, Americans, a
Yep.
functioning unit. Same way, similar as the body of Christ, and so that's how I was raised. So I never really was on the train of like always playing the race card or like playing the victim mentality. And so it got real for me when all of the riots were happening last year. There were riots happening in Philadelphia where people were burning buildings, throwing Molotov cocktails everywhere, assaulting police officers, looting stores. And I had some friends of mine from high school that I went to school with that, you know, when we were in school, we went to a private Christian school where there was only 6 black people and I was one of them. And so all 4 of them roll up to my house and then they're just like, we're going to go to Philly and we're going to go like get justice. And I'm just like, well, what are you doing? You going to go march? You going to go like, you know, take a stand or something? They're just like, nah, we're going to go loot. And I'm just like,
So real quick, so at this time you have, so George Floyd, you know, there's protests going on due to what happened with George Floyd. Where are you? Where is your perspective on the issue at this point? Before, you know, because this is before all the autopsies came out, we saw the court case. You know, where are you in this place, in this mindset?
well, before everything like turned out to what it was, I had a feeling, and it's just like I knew that it was being blown up to way bigger than it needed to be.
Yep.
And this was like George Floyd, I want to say, was a year and a half after Trayvon Martin, you know, and so to me it just seemed like another. It seemed like another ruse. It seemed like something else that they were using that didn't have all the answers solved yet.
Right.
And so, like, when I actually said that I came out as a Turning Point ambassador was the day George Floyd got declared dead in the hospital.
Wow.
So, and I mean, like, I didn't plan it like that. It was literally, I posted it, and then, like, 6 hours later, George Floyd, like, was declared dead. And so, like, my inbox blew up with all these threat messages, all these, like, hate messages from, you know, people that knew me. And, like, literally, like, the day before, were having, like, good conversations with me. And then out of nowhere, on a turn of a dime, it was literally just like, you traitor. It's like, you racist piece of crap. It's like, we know where you live. We're going to find you and kill you. Maybe then if you actually get, like, some of the treatment that he got, you'll actually feel some sort of sympathy. You know? But, like, I really respect my father in this whole in this whole situation because, you know, my dad, I would look at him and I'd be like, you know, like any son or any kid would do, like you look up to the people who are older than you that see what's happening. And my dad was really simple. He's just like, choices, man. You know? Because, like, everyone at that point was making it seem like the police found George Floyd, they pulled him over for no reason, and then they were just, like, harassing him until, you know, eventually he met his end. Right. And the way that he passed, you know, like, nobody wishes that on anybody.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, and it's, like, really frustrating for me because all of those people that will watch something like that and get enraged, it happens in their neighborhoods and in their communities with black-on-black crime. I've seen things like that happen. You know, gang members literally ganging up on one person that won't join, you know, that won't join their gang or is like repping the wrong set, and the stuff that they do to them is way worse than what the cops did to George.
Right.
You know, and it's like they didn't harass him for no reason. The police were called.
Right.
He went someplace and played with counterfeit money, and then, you know, like the results are what the results of what they are.
ODing on fentanyl.
And the same thing, and the same thing with Breonna Taylor. You know, where she was dating a guy who was into crime, and it's like,
and this is the, sorry, not to cut you off, but this is the thing that really frustrates me is that, you know, you brought up a really good point, black on black crime, and, you know, what pains me, you know, Jocelyn Adams, this happened a couple weeks ago where you had I believe she was 6 years old or 7 years old, at getting lunch in the line of McDonald's with her dad, and a dude comes in, pops her, kills her, and there's no there and there is no you know, the media doesn't pick up the story, and the reason why is because it doesn't fit the narrative. And what pains me and I would say frustrates me the most about this entire narrative of Black Lives Matter is that they take, really, and again, this is going to come off controversial, but it is. You take a criminal, someone that has a history where literally just a couple years back was in jail for robbing a woman that was pregnant and putting a gun to her belly to hold her off while his buddies were robbing her, and has been in jail multiple times. And yes, what happened in George Floyd is a very sad thing. Like, should he have died? No. But should he have been high on fentanyl? And we can go through all the different things. But the big issue is that you have stories like Jocelyn Adams every single day, which is to the point that you're making, Anthony, is that there is a crisis going on in some of these urban areas, and no one wants to talk about them. One, because they're probably Democratic run. Two, it keeps everyone in prison in the mind. And, three, it's against the narrative and would actually cause people to really face the facts, the statistics, and the realities that you are more likely to get struck by lightning than to be killed by an officer unarmed. And that is a literal stat.
Well, let me tell you something, man. I got pulled over by 6 cops last night, and that's not a joke.
6?
6. And like this is the story, right?
This is great.
So,
I'm so happy. I mean, I'm not happy this happened.
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy you got pulled over, bro. Yeah, do it more often. That's going to make great content for my channel. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, man. It's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So this is what happened. I had a busted driver's taillight. So the taillight on my driver's side was out. I noticed a cop following me from like a whiles away, and I do this kind of thing where it's just like I know the route that I'm going, but I also know how to like reroute it just to like see if someone's gonna follow me. So I rerouted, and he started following me, and I'm just like, huh. I was like, I wasn't on my cell phone. I wasn't like, I didn't have the music up, So I was like, all right, and then he lit me up, and I was like, okay. And but see, like the difference between like most men in America now, most black people, and myself is just like how you're taught how to respond.
Right.
My father's told me as a kid, he never said, son, like hate the police and the police are out to kill. He never made me afraid of them. Police work for us, and he always taught me to respect them and stuff. And he's also told me, he's just like, look, police have families at night that they want to go home to as well. And he's like, my dad was always very level-headed. And he's always told me, and that's the approach that I take whenever I'm invited to speak anywhere or to talk to anybody, is that I'd never undermine the suffering that people have actually undergone. That's
good.
But it's not the same as it was. Like, officers literally used to pull people over like that back in the 60s just to beat them up and harass them. Right. I got pulled over for a taillight. I sat there respectfully, and he said, look, son, he's like, as long as your license, your registration, and your insurance is up to date, you got nothing to worry about. Keep your hands on the wheel and say, yes, sir. Is everything that he told me. So the police officer pulls me over. Looks like he's younger than me. Looks like he's like 25, 26. And he's like, hey, man, you got a busted taillight. I was like, oh, I said, I thought I did something wrong. But I was like, okay. I was like, what do you need from me? And he's like, can I just have your license? I said, yeah. And I said, I know there's a lot of tension right now. But I said, I respect you. And I said, I know you have a tough job. So I said, whatever you need me to do, I'm willing to do it. Because I said, I had no idea that my taillight was out. And he's like, where are you headed? I was like, trying to go get some leftovers from Memorial Day since I missed the barbecues. So... I kept it light and hearty. When I started to get nervous was like after he left, then 2 other police officers showed up literally like within seconds of him coming to the window. And then they're all like approaching the car with flashlights. And I mean, like now to everybody else, they'll be like, what are you all doing? It's like, y'all racist and y'all trying to kill me and this and that. But I was like, man, why do there have to be 6 of you? There's only 1 of me. I was like, so in the end, I've got 2 officers on my passenger side shining flashlights in the car, 2 people on the back shining flashlights on each side of the car, 2 officers on my driver's side shining flashlights in the car. And I sat there peacefully and I complied. And then they said, all right, Mr. Watson, everything's up to date. We just wanted to let you know that, like your headlight was out. But because you were so respectful and you complied, we're going to let you go. Just get it taken care of. And so I said, okay, well, what do I do if I get pulled over by another officer? And they said, don't worry about it. They said, if you get pulled over, if it goes through Vineland, like the city where I'm from, they said, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Just have a safe night and get home okay. Easy. I was literally there under 3 minutes. But it was because there were so many officers in such a short amount of time. I was like, good God, they're preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
But in the line of duty, when you have to make a split decision of whether or not you're going to defend yourself, defend somebody else, possibly take a life, or prevent somebody from taking a life, it's like, you need people to have your back. Now, are there corrupt police? Absolutely. But there's also criminals. Right. And we need to actually understand and know that if you're respectful and polite and kind, then it's returned to you. So in that situation, right then and there was a prime example where anybody else would have turned it into a hostile situation of calling the cop racist or a pig or all this other stuff, because police have a really bad rap now, Yep. But not all of them are like that. And so...
Well, this goes back to what your dad said. Decisions, man. Like, decisions.
Oh, choices, man. That's all
choices.
it is.
Choice, that's it. Because your dad your dad taught you that, and you had a choice. You knew, all right, they brought out an extra 3 or 4 guys for no reason for a damn taillight. Like, okay, I have a choice. One, I can go and be, you know, have the mind of freaking out and exaggerating or calling him racist and hyping up the entire situation that makes you feel good and make you whatever. Or you have another choice. You know what? I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to do exactly what my dad told me. You got out. Where for someone else that might have operated a different way, who knows where that leads you? Choices. And I think what you said, Anthony, your dad implemented wisdom, gave you wisdom, passed on wisdom that that reminds yourself of, hey, when you're in this situation, this is how you react, this is how you respond, which is probably one of the main issues in a lot of urban areas, minority areas today in the States, is that we have a fatherless generation and a problem where dads aren't encouraged to stay at home and to keep the family together and actually be there for their children. I mean,
well, absolutely not, because they've let so many people, the government's given so many people cop-outs of responsibility. Right. And it irks me to no end. Everyone is all about, Planned Parenthood calling it, like medical insurance and all these other things, but it's always in the ghettos and in the projects and places where teenage pregnancy and all this, like, gang rape and date rape and criminal, like stuff happens. And it's literally for population control when you really look at the mission and the purpose of it, because, this is what I understand and know. Like, I have cousins on my mother's side that are gangbangers, prostitutes, like pimps, and I've had a front row seat to the life that I don't want, because nothing good comes out of that. But all of them had something. They had fathers in their lives, but they were just emotionally non-existent, and that's just as damaging as not being there altogether. And so the difference between myself and them is that I was raised, they grew up, and everyone's like, well, we don't understand the difference. I'm like, look, when you grow up, it's literally you picking influence from wherever you can get it and then just picking whatever you want. When you're raised, that's when your parents literally instill things in you that they want you to learn, practice, and keep with you for a lifetime. And so we don't have
Hold on, that's
people...
so good. That's so good. So there is 2 types of people. I want to say this again. This is so good, Anthony.
There are people that grow up, and there are people that are raised. Raised is intentional. That's when you plan, and that's when you make efforts to put that plan into action. And that's why I'm so touched and I'm so blessed when I hear people say, like, oh, I want to be a mom. I want to have kids. We don't have people saying that anymore. People love the feelings and the pleasures of sex, but they forget that it's for reproduction. And then... I'm just like, well, what the heck did you expect to come from that? And everyone's always like, shocked. We weren't surprised. We didn't think we were going to get pregnant. I'm just like, well, the whole purpose of that whole interaction is to have kids. So I'm just like, I don't understand how you can now sit here and be surprised, because 2 things comes from sex. It's either STDs or children. And I'm just like, that's literally all it is if it's done in the wrong way. True. And so now you have so many people taking influence from places because people don't want responsibility. Because in my personal experience, I've seen Planned Parenthood be used as the get out of responsibility card, where it's like everyone will do that whole, routine of everything. And then when they get in a situation that they don't want, then they want to be like, and the thing that's so heartbreaking and so infuriating to me is that they make it seem like they're doing the kid a favor.
Yeah.
I had a close friend of mine that I don't talk to anymore, so I don't really care if he finds this or not. But he was somebody that without remorse would just find all of these broken girls and broken homes and then just mac out with them. Right. And I'm just like, dude, like, what are you going to do if like this happens? And he's like, well, I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm good. He got this one girl pregnant. He ended up funding her to get an abortion. And I was just like, I got so mad that I just didn't talk to him. And now people will look at me and be like, well, you're so cruel. That's your friend. I'm just like, no, man, I have a stance on what I believe in. And if I don't make a stance for it in my own personal life, then my words mean absolutely nothing. So in that situation, I was just like, I wanted to know his reasoning. I was like, well, why? I said, is she sick? Is it bad? He's just like, no, we're just not ready. And it's not fair to the kid if like we go through with this, because
fair to the kid.
I kid you not. I'm not making this up. He said it's not fair to the kid if we go through with this because we're going to be lousy parents. And I'm just like, so you're not even going to give this kid a chance, And so
Wow.
like you know that I'm really big on spoken words, and maybe you can help me with this. So anyone listening, you guys can follow me on Instagram at @AWatsonJam. I'm gonna be making a very really gruesome but very impactful spoken word video next. And this whole next video, I've already titled it. It's going to be called What If? And it's going to be from the perspective of however many years from now, what if we're finally at a place where cancer is is a part of free healthcare? What if we're at a place where, water makes cars run and we don't have to worry about gasoline and oil? What if we're at a place where there is no national debt, there is no world debt because we're all doing everything off of natural resources and not man-made energy and lithium? And then what if all of these things? And then at the very end of the video, I'm going to somehow cinematographically try to get like chicken guts in a vacuum tube and then like show it, making it look like it's, like a doctor vacuuming out a uterus with the famous coined phrase, "Beam me up, Scotty."
Dang.
And the whole purpose of that is showing that by taking away a life, you've taken away someone that can possibly contribute to something amazing for the future. Because this is why we fight so hard, because we've already made up our minds. But now people are coming for the people that can't defend themselves and have no ability to choose and make the choices that they want, which is the kids.
Right.
And you have to be a real diabolical monster to really prey on a young mind like that for your own gain, when you're not even going to see the effects of it later on. And it reminds me of that story of that old king Hezekiah in the Bible, when a prophet came to him and said, destruction is coming later on, prepare about it. And his response was, well, at least it won't happen in my lifetime. Wow. And then there was destruction afterwards. And it's just like, that's where we're headed. And history repeats itself because of people's lack of initiative and their lack of consistency. Everybody wants what's good, but nobody is wanting to actually like go through what they need to make it possible.
Right. Well, and I think I showed you this book, Love Letter to America. I showed it to you when we were in St. Augustine about a week or two ago. And something that you said, culture is getting this entire generation to focus on sex. It's focusing on an antichrist spirit. And this entire book, and I brought this up, I've talked about this book on my lives. I talked about it once on the podcast, where this is a book written by ex-Soviet Union KGB informant that literally used what he calls his ideological inversion. I believe ideological subversion. I'm sorry.
Oh, snap.
Subversion.
Is that the book that you were reading when we were just chilling on the beach?
Yes.
Hey, everyone, Jordan won't swim in the ocean. I had to go in there all by myself.
Dude, I wasn't in the mood.
It was a vibe, guys.
I was reading this book, though.
It was brisk weather. The sun was beaming hot, but the wind was like the right temperature. The water was a little chilly, but I mean, like you got used to it after being in there for like a good 25 minutes.
I'm going to the beach next week, so I'm
whatever.
Have to make sure.
Yeah.
But okay, but the reason for bringing this up is because what you talked about is how culture has gotten an entire generation to focus on sex, which is why and then the answer to that sex and the consequences has become Planned Parenthood, murdering your children, not to create a family and want to even desire a family. I mean, I've never met so many people that they're like, I don't really care if I have kids, and I'm like, I could not imagine.
Dude, I used to feel the same way. I don't know about you, but I used to get so offended when people used to be like, I don't want children. And I'd be like, well, there's something wrong with you. But then I realized I'm just like, it's better for them to not have kids because they might be crappy parents when they get older. Because I know that anyone can be a mom and a dad, but not everyone can be a parent. Parenting takes responsibility, and it takes like dedication, and it's a responsibility that a lot of people squander. Do you realize the importance of childhood and like new life? You know that once a life comes into this world, think about this, bro. It'll never cease to exist eternally. Once it's there, it is there for however long. It's there forever. So when you realize the importance of life and the value that it holds, it really like opens up your eyes to like see people the way that they're supposed to be seen. But a lot of people make the mistake where they compromise their own values in fear of being ridiculed for taking a stand for something, all to be accepted by a crowd that's forever changing and never stationary or grounded in anything that they stay or believe. And so coming full circle to the whole BLM issue, the reason I became such a huge advocate against it was
Well,
because
hey, let's before you get there, because I want to make one point, because this is gonna be a perfect transition into it.
Go for it.
So in this book, this book is specifically talks about the attacks and the implementation of Marxism in starting back in the 1980s. The number one thing that comes from this handbook from this Soviet Union informant, KGB informant, he says that this is the handbook that they're using on America today. The number one thing: corrupt the young, get them interested in sex, take away their religion. Corrupt the young, get them interested in sex, and take away their religion.
Well, that's a common tactic to take over. What you do is you get people like it's like, what pimps do to their prostitutes. They get them hooked on drugs. They get them so dependent that in order for them to get their fix, they got to go out and work, and then they use drugs as a reward. It's like so sickening, and it's just like you see that happening with people on the left in America today, and just people of the same mindset and ideology, like globally, like worldwide. You create a problem as the people in charge.
Right.
You put everyone in a state of fear and hysteria where they feel so uncomfortable that they hang on your every word because you quote unquote have the answers. Now look at how everything is unfolding. Now Dr. Fauci is like backpedaling. Congress is backpedaling. Like all of these governors and all of these senators and mayors that were all about this whole mask mandate business when it first became a really big thing. Now they're all backpedaling.
The co-founder of BLM resigned because of
And that's not the only one. Like, she resigned because of scandal. She said the scandal had nothing to do with it. But it's just like, I said, it's just like BLM, literally, they don't stand for anything. Even if it's messed up, that everyone has a mission statement. And their mission statement from the very beginning was, we stand against the nuclear family.
Yep.
We want to give, and like I memorized it because they deleted it. And I can't find the screenshot, but it says, we stand against the westernized nuclear family. We believe in creating an environment and a community where single mothers can continue to fight for the cause with their children, but not be subjected or objectified to modern family theologies. And I'm just like, so you would rather invite a single mother with her whole family to get involved in this chaotic, dangerous, violent cause just so that you can prove a point. And everybody's leaving. And then a month ago, you hear one of the people coming under scrutiny because she bought her $4 million mansion.
Right.
And then her excuse was, well, I got to take care of my family. I'm like, oh, hold up. I thought you guys were against that whole thing. But before that, remember, nobody could find their mission statement. They deleted it.
Newsflash, it's a scam. It's a scam.
And you have everybody, and you still have everybody still fighting for this cause that has produced no value. It's stopped no violence. It's given nothing. It's produced nothing. Been in no public eye to offer anything back to the communities. It's taken in last year alone, I think, $60 million.
No, it's over 70.
Over 70. So, and it's just like,
and
the question becomes like, where does the money go? Then you have little leaders in like small sections here and there, major cities all over the United States going to prison for like, spending the money on like prostitutes and condos and expensive suits and all this other stuff. And it's just like, if that doesn't get you to open your eyes and think about like what the real picture and what the real purpose of this is, then I'm just like, the issue ain't everything out there. It's you. We live in an imperfect world where no matter who's in office, no matter what's happening, there's going to be violence. There's going to be things that are going to be happening. That's just how ugly the world is. What makes it hopeful is when you're in that whole kind of situation and you can see all of that stuff happening and you still value the life of the person that's there. That's the difference. And the only way that you do that isn't through politics and ain't through policies. It's through letting your mind and your heart be changed and be renewed by the word of God. Literally. And it's just like, we've substituted everything. We've taken God out of every facet. We've taken him out of every place. And now we're shocked and surprised that everything is under attack. Remember when we took prayer out of schools? You weren't allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance. You weren't allowed to stand for the flag. You weren't allowed to pray. And now they've taken God out of schools. And that's why you have all these young kids getting their minds raped by all this brain pop, this whole gender studies, this whole, critical race theory and stuff, and everyone's shocked. And I'm just like, well, what the heck did you expect? I was like, when you have God in control of certain things, there's order, there's peace, There's love and there's equality. Things that the people on the right want and things that people on the left want, but things that nobody will be able to achieve without him.
Yep. No, seriously, it's such a good point, and it's so interesting because there is. If you don't think that taking God out of schools and taking God out of the entertainment industry and taking God out of even the national anthem, or the Pledge of Allegiance, there is a direct attack on religion. And in this, and not to reference back the same book, but I'm going to, he said, Tomas talks about how literally the number one thing that every communist regime, every Marxist regime, and remember, BLM founder literally says, we are trained Marxists. The number one thing they go after is religion. And this is the reason why. Dr. I can never say his name right, Sherfich, analyzed past communist regimes and past communist movements. And he goes, I came to the one omnious conclusion. Every one of these civilizations died when people rejected religion and God and tried to create social justice along the socialist principles. This is back in 1977. There is a reason why that we have created even when it comes to our universities, our churches, it's infiltrated the church now, where we are focusing less on God, we are focusing less on faith, we are focusing less on Jesus. We're focusing less on academics and getting smarter and gaining wisdom and knowledge. And we are focusing more on social justice issues. The things that really don't bring any real change to your life. There's a reason why. And it's because one of the things that also says in this book is that you can't infiltrate Marxism and implement it unless you dumb down the average citizen.
Well, look at what the government's done. They've made drugs paraphernalia and weed so available to everybody that everybody's so high out of their mind. It's just they give you puff pass, and while you're doing that, they're stealing your wallet, stealing your textbooks, stealing everything, rewriting everything, so that by the time you finally come to your senses, everything is different, and then you're just like, what happened?
Right.
It's just like, what did you expect? It's just like back when this country was founded, even if people weren't professing Christians or people of faith, they still had that one thing for God that nobody has anymore, and it's reverence.
That's so good,
They
bro.
still regarded him as the creator of all and who was sovereign, and that's why they did everything under his rule, which is now that's what's under attack, because that's the last thing holding it together. But I do know this. It doesn't matter how ugly, how bad, how chaotic, how violent, how things get. You can only have so much evil stack up until God steps in. And he's about to do something. We don't really know what it is, but if COVID has taught us anything, it's been for years. Everyone has been like, to be something successful in life or to have any purpose, you need to go to college, need to have a degree, you need to get married, need to have a family, need to have a job, need to have an income, need to have credit, all this other stuff. And COVID literally took all of that away.
Yep.
You had more domestic violence in the home. Nobody was working. Nobody could go to school. Everyone was fed up with all the Zoom classes. Nobody really wanted to work, and everyone was tired of being inside. It's just back in those days, it's just nobody wanted to work because times were so good under Trump and the economy. Now you see lines of people lining up just for gasoline.
Right.
And then after that, you have everybody coming and saying all these ridiculous things. And it's I'm just you voted for this. So when everyone, and especially during election time, when everyone was we just need to get Trump out, I was okay. I said, I can respect your feelings because, I know we ain't all going to agree on everything. But I said, do you actually want him out because you disagree with policy, or do you want him out just because of his personality? And they're just well, he's racist. I was well, what did he say? They're just he called Mexicans rapists. I'm just well, last time I checked, rapist ain't a racial slur. It's a crime. I was I know white rapists. I was I know black rapists. I know Spanish rapists. I know Asian rapists. I'm just
I know white rapists. I know
white rapists.
Green, blue, yellow, every color you can dang think about.
I'm just I said, I get it. I was he's not everybody's cup of tea. I was as some things that, you would want him to have more, class in. I was just he was just a battering ram. But I'm just look at the results of what he's done. And I said, you guys may get what you want. You may get him out of office. But I said, you don't realize that you might be putting a tyrant there instead. And I was just like, gas prices shot up. I was like, you have so many "we're hiring" signs everywhere across the country right now, and ain't nobody want to work because they're so comfortable staying at home getting their government checks. You know, and I was like,
They
you
knew
can
what
only
they
do
were
that.
doing. They
You
knew
can
what
only
they were
do
doing.
that for so long. And the tactic of the left right now, the tactic of Democrats and liberals, and like, I really can't stand the term liberal because it's just like, it really doesn't mean anything. The whole liberal ideology to me is the whole mindset of live and let live. Because you don't stand for nothing. You condemn everyone that makes anyone feel uncomfortable because they take a stance. They don't even attack anybody. But yet you can't defend your arguments. You can't, you don't know how to research. It's just like all you do is name call. And it's like your arguments and your opinions and your ideologies, they all fall apart when they actually meet truth. And it's just like, and everybody on that side, they don't even live by the truth. They live by, oh, well, it's your truth, your version of truth. Jesse Smollett, classic example, that kind of thing. 100%. Well, they don't want to believe the truth. This is just what everything is here. And so,
well, there was a time in your life, which I know you're about to tell the story, and I actually want to hear it, where you confronted people. You know, there were 6 guys that came over to your place, and you were telling a story earlier where, you know, they were about to go out and protest, for what happened with George Floyd. They came to your place, and you were like, hey, what are we going to do? And you actually spoke some truth, and it turned on you. Real quick, and we got about 10 minutes left. Tell me about that story.
I became a huge advocate against it because not only did those people not support me, they literally, like, took it to me.
Yeah.
So when I said I don't want to go, I said I can't do that, and they said, well, why not? I said you support everything that's happening. I said, no, that's not fair. I said, because I said out of all of us, I said I'm the one that's in the projects, going out and doing my outreaches to kids in those kind of environments. I'm the one that's putting all this work on the pavement, and I'm just like, just because I don't believe in stealing something that ain't mine, I said, I can't go with you. And I said, if that makes me your enemy, then I said, I'm sorry, but I said, that's the stance that I'm going to have to take. And I don't remember what happened after that because I got clocked from behind, and then it was 10 minutes of getting stomped on.
So you had some buddies come over to your place. They're like, yo, people are protesting. We're going to go loot. We're going to go destroy the town or whatever. What did they, what was the conversation because again, what people see, they just see people looting on TV. They don't actually see the actual organizing and the conversations that go beforehand.
I can't speak for anybody, but I honestly know that looting a jewelry store and looting a Nike store or all these other shops and whatever that you were burning up and whatnot, it has solved absolutely nothing. And it's getting to the point now where it's like nobody's safe. You see all these mothers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, parents, sisters, brothers crying because now the young ones aren't even safe. You know, everyone is just running them up and going and being careless. And that's why I've never supported BLM, because they've done absolutely nothing for black people except fire them up with fake rage and like embolden them with false truth and then encourage them to do whatever, knowing that if they don't do anything, politicians will bend to them if they scream loud enough. Oof. And we live in a culture now where we live in a culture now where hard work means nothing, discipline is out the window, and character flaws don't even like talk about that, because we're taught that if you scream loud enough, you complain long enough, and you make trouble loud enough, then people will just give you what you want. That may work for a little bit, but people have a cap, and you can't hold on to that for forever. You know, there's got to come a time where it's like what you actually say means something. And Martin Luther King at that time, I said to them, I was like, he'd be rolling in his grave right now. Because I said he marched so that you guys could be able to complain and not get shot for it. And y'all are going to go over there and march and do all this other stuff in vain for no purpose, for people that are still dying. I don't care how many times you say George Floyd. I don't care how many times you say Breonna Taylor. I don't care how many times you say Trayvon Martin. You can say their names until you're blue in the face and until you die and pass out in your grave. It's not going to bring them back. We need to start saying the names of all the people that are still alive, still in these situations, still fighting for truth, still lost, still hopeless, still desperate for any kind of hope, to get to them, because they're the names that are alive that you can actually do and make a change with. We need more people that are doing that, and that is what I'm willing to die and fight for to my dying breath until it's taken from me, to make sure that people actually have a chance, a voice, and someone that's actually going to fight for them to give them better for what they deserve through hard work, through discipline, through character development, and through honesty.
Boom. Anthony Watson out. No, for real. The end. No, seriously, bro. That is so true. I love everything that you're saying. I want to keep this conversation going, but we are wrapping up on, it's a perfect ending, is that we have to do more. We have to challenge the norm, and we have to have these conversations, man. They're so important. We have to have these conversations. So really quick, tell people, how can people get a hold of you if they want to find you on social media, find you on Instagram, and if you have a website or your email?
I'm just on Instagram and Twitter right now, but I'm getting rid of my Twitter and my Facebook. So, I mean, like, Instagram, A. Watson, J-A-M. A. Watson Jam, one word. One word, no dots, spaces, hyphens, whatever. If you need anything, DM me. Would love to reach out and talk to all of you guys.
Yes.
And follow me on any of the events that you can catch in and tune in on Zoom. And if you haven't yet, book your tickets for SAS, July 17th to the 20th. We're going to be there. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a good time. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to hang out with a lot of good people that have your back.
We are all going to be there. And also, if you're listening to this right now, which is most likely on Wednesday, June 2nd, when you are actually listening to this, you can actually go to the Speak Truth Without Fear Instagram, and you will see that because tonight Anthony is also going to be on the Instagram live show with Speak Truth Without Fear. So it's going to be, we're going back to back. I'm so happy to have Anthony. Anthony, thank you so much for seriously coming in, taking the time, sharing your story. It's so inspirational, bro.
Oh, man, this is so much fun, man. We're going to have even more fun on the live. So if you guys have no plans, make sure you guys tune in every Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. The Jordan Speak Truth Without Fear. This thing is fire. Baby. Y'all ain't going to miss nothing. And if you do miss nothing, that's your own fault. Come on, let's go.
I love it. So with that being said, remember, leave a review. You can also go on YouTube if you want to watch these at home. Go to the website, speaktruthwithoutfear.com. We got articles up. We got so much information to get you. We love you guys, and we will see you on the next episode on Friday with me and Ross the Boss.